Good morning, everybody, everywhere. Welcome and God bless. I have a very keen question. Why is it media constantly beats the same mantra over and over again? This huge, and I do mean huge, shortage of trucks. I mean, really? Tell me, does this bring back memories?
Truck drivers in the U.S. is getting worse.
Getting worse.
The American Trucking Association estimates the industry is short about 80,000 people.
Definitely referencing the ATA saying that there's over 60 to 70,000 shortage of drivers. That is not the case.
Meantime, the need for commercial truck drivers remains critical nationwide.
And right now, the American Trucker Association says they're lacking more than 60,000 qualified drivers.
Well, think about what you buy at the store every week. Those items are available in part because of truck drivers, but there's a need for more of them.
In Tennessee, there's always a need for more people to get behind the wheel of a truck.
In the last image, you could see they had yellow trucks in the background. I mean, these drivers just recently lost their jobs. So what a disconnect when you're trying to make a video about a trucker shortage.
Bring back some memories. And if that's not bad enough, we got lawmakers even getting into this, regurgitating the same BS. And they think it's because of this.
You say there isn't trucker driver shortage. If you're out there dealing with it every day, yeah, there is. And the question the only statement I would make towards that is, and I made it in this committee before, it doesn't help. We have a tremendous amount of people who might be good drivers, but they prefer to smoke dope on the weekend and they can't get clean by Monday.
I'd be like, dude, what? I mean, where is this shortage? Do you believe it? Tell me in the comments below. What do you think of what just popped up on my screen? I don't know about you, but I'm getting kind of sick and tired of hearing the same old thing. And just in doing research alone, I found that extra clip with the lawmaker. Don't really know him. Don't want to know him. But I'll tell you what. He's got it all wrong. So get ready to dial in. Studio lines are getting ready. Our targeting systems are charged and ready for another day on the front lines of the United States of trucking.
Shall we begin?
From the trenches of trucking experience and a passionate heavyweight in the Truth in Broadcasting Network. Welcome to Truckin City News Frontline Podcast, hosted by the most opinionated broadcaster on YouTube, Boss Man.
Broadcasting from the inside loving command seat of the Truckin City Mobile Studio, currently located in Greenville, North Carolina, the CIC of the broadcast network known as the Truth in Broadcasting Network. Opening the best call-in show of our time, your host, Boss Man, here with a constant flow of opinion and cynicism. Welcome to Truckin City Frontlines, the show no others can be, defending the honor and respect of, you heard it right, the United States of trucking. Gonna have a great show today. Call our studio lines and make your mark today in trucking history. 860-785-3547. 860-785-3547. Send us your thoughts, your stories, your comments, and answer the question. Do you think what you hear is marked by truth? Do you think it's propaganda? Let me know in the chat. We'll get to that momentarily. Let me tell you something. We're starting a movement. And the name of the game is no longer settling for silence. Your voice matters. And this show is your platform to be heard. We're easy to find. Just simply go to truckincitymedia.com. truckincitymedia.com. You are with the Brotherhood. Spotlighting news coverage from around the world. We hold the media accountable when they favor corporate elites over hardworking truckers like you and me. Calling out hypocrisy, speaking out on our experience, seeking answers, providing a guaranteed home for those who want to share our mission. We welcome you in. We together can stand up for this brotherhood and make trucking great again. If anyone can tell you what this shortage is or is not, it's the guests on today's panel. Let me tell you, friends, they're more than qualified. Unlike a story coming up soon, they have the guts to debate me. Not that I have to be debated, but I don't just sit down and take it. And the guests on this panel also are the same way. They are a unique group of truckers from all walks of life and a couple of countries to boot. I have an extra guest in the house. As I get through my regular panel, we'll get through and invite him in. So if the guy backstage will take a moment, we'll get to everybody. We'll certainly start the show. Welcome to the panel, guys. Glad you can make it today. While we're going round and round, tell me in the comments what you thought of the open, and tell me, do you believe the continuing BS and stories that feed a narrative about a shortage that don't exist? Morning, John. Tell me what you think. What's your answer to that question?
Well, before we do that, I just would like to say to everybody, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on when you're watching this. Thank you for joining in. I really do appreciate it. Sorry, inside joke, everybody.
You're such a you are such a thief. It's ridiculous. It's getting out of hand.
Wait, didn't you just put out short with a crown on your head? Okay. Whatever. All right.
Who told you to do that?
Okay. All right. I was just having some fun with Paid Trucking over there. By the way, go check out his channel. It's awesome. Links in the comments. All right, guys. What was the question again? I was holding that in this whole time. Sorry. What was the question again?
John, you are encouraging. Tell me, what do you
do it again. Just ask me.
Yeah, right. What are your thoughts of the open today? Do you believe this continuing narrative about the shortage that don't exist?
All right. Well, here's the thing. Okay, I'm gonna walk the fence on this one. All right. I don't personally believe right at this very moment we have a shortage. Not to say it's impossible that we do, but I don't believe there is one right at this moment. But a good friend of mine, which we'll be talking here in a couple of minutes, will tell you that, you know, over the next 10 years or whatever the number is, a lot of truckers are going to be dropping out. So they're trying to prepare for a shortage that is to come. Now, makes sense, but how real is it? We don't know. So, but I'm sure he'll be talking soon. He'll tell you more about that.
Oh, I'm sure indeed. Okay, aside from the shot over the bow and the obvious glaring poking fun at you, what do you think, Faith? You think it's a BS narrative? Do you think it's believable? What do you think?
You know, I've been doing some thinking on this. It kind of depends on what type of trucking we're talking about and what region we're in.
Yes.
I know where I live in Minnesota, near the Minneapolis Twin Cities area, there is a shortage for like local style driving. Um, so that's like a real thing. So I do think there's a shortage in certain, I gotta be in here, certain areas of trucking. I don't think there's a shortage in what I do, put it that way.
I agree. Not every sector has the same result. So nice to know. Glad you feel that way. Larry, what do you think? Do you think that this narrative is just overplayed? What do you say?
Pretty much.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't. I mean, they say there's a shortage, but where's the proof?
Right, exactly. I gotta say that they've been doing the same back and forth over whether it's a shortage or not for Christ, as many years as I've been driving, and probably even before that. So, I mean, it don't seem to ever want to change. What about the man from the north, the man in Alberta? What do you think? Do you think there's I mean, maybe Canadians see it differently. I don't know, but what do you think? Do you believe the narrative about there being a shortage?
No, I don't. Good morning, by the way.
Good morning. Good morning.
What I see is, yes, a possible shortage, but the main thing, especially up here, is retention, whether it be pay or whether it be retention or whatever it is. This has got nothing with it to do with a shortage of jobs. Any driver that looks at another company where the grass is greener on the other side of the fence is going to go there. That's just the nature of the beast.
Yep.
Shortage?
It is.
Shortage? No. Shortage of retention.
It is. It is. And a man with the hour, usually a very generated opinion due to a lot of research. What do you think? Do you believe the narrative, or do you
There's
like
a shortage of truck drivers? There's a shortage of truck drivers in the United States, and you believe it too. I know you believe it. Oh yes, you do.
No.
You said in one of your questions that it was retention, it was pay. Those are excuses and reasons for the shortage. If there's not
What
a
was
shortage
that question?
of truck drivers, then
That
they would be
question was-
laying people off left and right. How many companies are laying truck drivers off?
The question you mentioned, by the way, was a poll question designed to gather an answer.
And your question said that was retention a problem? He just brought up that retention's a problem. Retention is a reason for a shortage. You can't say retention's a problem if there's no shortage, because you're given a reason for the shortage.
Right.
Here's the deal. Are they laying off truckers where you're at? Are they letting people go left and right? Or do they have open trucks and they're taking people in left and right? I can call up 10 companies right now and they've got an open truck that they can put me in tomorrow. That's not a shortage. That's a shortage of drivers, not a shortage of trucking positions. When we get to a position where there's no shortage of drivers, you won't be able to move company to company.
Right.
Because they will be full and they'll be laying people.
But the same condition has existed for over 12 years.
That's fine. There's been a shortage for over 12 years.
Right.
That's why right now people are able to walk into this industry. You've complained about it yourself.
Yeah.
People walking into this industry with very little training, haven't been in the U.S. very long, don't speak the language real well, and they're able to walk in and get a job.
Yep.
They couldn't do that if if it was overstrength.
True.
There's somebody down here at this corner who is just this corner over here who has really got his hand up.
Yeah. Go ahead, Faye.
Okay. You're not exactly changing my mind, but you do have a good point, Tom. I mean, hey, a good argument is a good argument, and it can change my mind. I don't have a problem with that. I'm just telling you from my point of view what I'm seeing up here. Now, Okay, said about the layoffs. You guys know that I just got laid off. Okay.
Yeah. Which I'm sorry to hear.
I will persevere. However, I do think they're going to use my age against me, even though I have what 4.5 million accident-free miles. Okay.
Yeah.
I haven't had a ticket in 25 years on either my car, in a truck, or on my motorcycle. Okay.
Good deal.
But it's because of my age.
Right.
Which up in
Let
Canada
me get
is illegal.
Okay, let me get to the new guest on the panel. This gentleman was with us last week's show. I'm going to call him Truckin Guy 91 because I suck at names.
You can just call me Thumper.
Call you Thumper. Okay, I like that. I like that. Well, I'm glad you took the. I'm glad you took the initiative to take our StreamYard link and join the show. That is listed in the chat box to the right, underneath the pinned comment in the chat, and it's also in the description below. So if you want to take a moment and join the show the same way, you're welcome to it. I'm not filled up yet. Tell me, Truckin Guy, or Thumper, what is your opinion of the short? You've heard a varying panel, varying amount of opinions. What do you think of it?
Is there a shortage on company drivers? Yes. Is there a shortage in drivers? No. Like, I'm from Minnesota, just like I can't remember his name, sorry. But so I'm from Minnesota, and you go on like Facebook Marketplace or Craigslist or anything like that, there's a lot of owner operators that are selling their trucks because they can't afford it anymore.
Yep.
So now, how is that going to fall into play? Is it going to be a shortage where they're going to turn into company drivers and there's not going to be a shortage of company drivers? Now, is there a shortage in loads?
Right.
It's been kind of struggling for my end of the deal for loads. We've been struggling, but we're getting through.
Right. What say you, Fate? You've had your hand up, been patient for a while. I appreciate that.
So we all like numbers on this panel, right? Like we tend to look at numbers and statistics, right?
Right.
There is over 13 million trucks registered in the United States to hit the road. That means this year, 13 million trucks have a sticker, a registration sticker for the year. There's only 3 million drivers.
Right.
If you have 13 million trucks and 3 million drivers, that would constitute a shortage. That's all I'm saying.
Okay. All right. But then
why would a company invest all that money? Because it's not cheap to register your vehicle every year and pay the highway use tax every year that you have to do for that truck to run down the road. So there's 13 million trucks with 3 million drivers.
Okay.
Numbers tell me that's a shortage.
Well, the only argument I have to the entire discussion that I always have problems with is the way the media covers it, because consistency in the media does not exist. What I do notice with the media that does exist, and I'm going to take some issue with today, is the narrative that certain organizations and groups will pay for and have reiterated, like at yesterday's dinner. But we're going to get to that in just a moment. I'm going to catch up on some comments. 7C's is joining us. He's in the audience. Leaving comments. God bless you. I have a new name here, Lou something. I'm just going to call you Lulu. Good morning. If I butcher your names, I do it intentionally because I'm not a name guy. I'm an opinion guy. That's it. Donna Deschler's in the house. Good morning. How's everybody doing? Back at you. I hope you're doing well. Brother was a truck driver. God rest his soul. Amen to that. I'll come on with that. Midlife talking smack about the yard. Sat press. Good morning to you. Good morning to the wife. Perfect opportunity to segue into something that I think everybody looks for on this panel, and that is Well, not my first story, but something to remind us all. Much the same way we got things wrong at the start of the show, according to some, we sometimes see the worst in ourselves. If you have this idea that you're always coming up short, stop and think, guys. Is it really failure, or is it success in a different disguise? No matter what you're going through, if it looks like it's not quite working out right, keep pushing past it. Keep going beyond the no, not yet. That last pain point could be that one pain point you have to get beyond to get her done. Keep on going. It will come. It will happen. Remember, the only time it's failure is when you stop trying. And this was brought to you by Albert Einstein, the advice that never fails. Ladies and gentlemen, I don't know. I've got a varying amount of opinions on the panel. You can talk about trucks. You can talk about drivers. You can talk about all kinds of aspects of the industry. But what I like to focus on is a video I put out yesterday. And on that video, there was somebody that wasn't even affiliated with trucking that was opining on the state of the trucking industry. If Morton Downey Jr. came on TV today, if he were still alive, and told you how messed up trucking was and gave you the usual cursing and swearing that he usually does, what would you think of what he had to say? Or what of Graham Stephan? If Graham Stephan came on this live show right now and told you how lousy trucking was, or that we have this shortage, would you believe him? I mean, as much as we'd love to have Graham Stephan on here, because it would really help my raise, he's not a trucker. He's a financial guru. He knows about investing. So what makes him any better than this guy I'm about to talk about? Watch carefully.
Your next day Amazon Prime shipping or same day, that has to come from somewhere. Well, it comes from transportation and the trucking industry. And truckers lately have been suffering big time in terms of revenue loss because shipping loads have been down so much. What's going on with truck drivers? You just don't have that many people becoming truck drivers. You know, there's a lot of industries that are not picking up as many people as we need. You know, there's more people leaving than are coming in, like police, like truck drivers, like plumbers.
I mean, this fella was even picked up and recognized by Mother Trucker News. That's where I got the clip and the idea from, and that's where I got the link from. If you in the audience want to opine on this yourself and talk about what you think of either the state of the industry as it opines to the shortage, or this fella here, we're going to continue talking. 860-785-3547. Reach me, reach the panel, reach out and touch someone. So what do you guys think? John, I mean, if you're not part of the industry, how dare you? What do you think?
Well, okay. I see where you're coming from, but I put two polls up, one on Facebook and one on YouTube, because I knew this conversation was coming up. So, right. And I didn't mean to do that, but
I know we
all got balloons and confetti out of it. So
what are these polls?
I want to tell you about this. Okay, so on Facebook, I asked a direct question. Is there a driver shortage, right? Now, these are drivers. So these are to trucking groups that I sent these polls to. Now, Midlife over there will tell you that truckers don't really know what's going on in trucking because they don't know the numbers for the future and all that kind of stuff. But I just want to do, because we believe in polls, right? Like when there's an election come up, we all believe in the polls. So let's do some polls. All right, so on Facebook, that was good. On Facebook, well over like 70% of the people that voted said no, there's not a shortage. A small percent said yes, and then a few people said there will be in 10 years, and a few people said, what driver shortage? Now on YouTube, I changed the question on purpose. On YouTube, I asked, will there be a driver shortage in the next 10 years? Well, this is kind of amazing. 58% of the drivers answered yes.
Okay.
27% said no, 3% said it was a myth, and 12% said it's propaganda spread by mega carriers. Now, the reason why I asked two separate questions was for the exact reason you're asking now. A non-trucker's out there saying there's a driver shortage. Well, as you're seeing on here, drivers think there's a driver shortage too, at least on YouTube, not so much on Facebook. But I don't think anybody really knows. I think the numbers, you can make them look either way. And people bring up good points, like Midlife over there in the corner brings up some good points, makes you think it's possible. But then again, you know, maybe it's because these companies are losing money right now. That's why they are laying off people. Maybe it's not because there's an overage. You know, you never know.
Yep. And for the sake of the audience and our getting to know you, I'm going to bring the new guy in and ask you a question. When it comes to rates and this discussion we're currently having, what do you feel like the story really is? Do you feel like that talks to or talks away from this story of a shortage?
That's kind of a hard one. Oh.
Well, I mean, first of all, I don't know that much
It's on
about you,
you.
but yeah. First of all, I don't know that much about you, so tell us a little bit about your experience. Currently, are you a company driver or a lease operator?
I am an owner operator, and I have 10 trucks on the road.
Okay, so you have 10 trucks.
Yep, and we haul cattle, and we are leased on to a hopper company business. So we pull hopper. So
you're not struggling for rates at all.
Well, cattle's not doing too good right now. Out of the 7 cattle pots we have, we only have 3 on the road. Cattle is really slow, and the hopper part, they give us a rate. That's it. We get paid by the ton. That's it. But I do have a lot of friends that are in the trucking industry, and they look at rates and everything. And a valid point is the way I got it to make my trucks go down the road, I have to make $3.50 a mile regardless, just to pay my driver, pay the insurance, the IFTA, my permits and everything. And that's what I got figured out. Well, when fuel prices are higher, it's like pulling teeth from people to get a higher rate.
Yep.
When fuel price, the instant, it doesn't matter if they drop. It seems like 30 minutes after fuel prices drop, the rates drop just like that. And it's hard to keep those. I wish there was a way where rates just like they go up. I understand they got to come down, but don't drop them 10, 15 cents. That's a lot of money.
Yeah. Fade, I saw you shaking your head a minute ago. You got room to disagree, or do you think that what he's talking about is dead on?
Well, it's a little bit different. I don't have employees that I have to pay. So after I heard him say that, I started thinking, I certainly wouldn't be in business if it was costing me over $3 a mile to operate my equipment. But like I said, I don't have employees that I have to pay. I do own all my own equipment. I thankfully just sold. I was thinking about what I said earlier about people that all the trucks that are registered here in the US. I had a truck that was registered that wasn't being used. You know what I mean? It was just sitting. I was still paying registration costs and everything on it, but I ended up selling that truck. But
as did I mine too last year.
I think listen, I've never been one to talk about bad rates and this and that. It's because what I do works for me. I don't spend a lot of time on the spot market. I haul a lot of direct customer freight. I've been able to secure freight through subscribers on YouTube that have consistent freight leaving Minnesota that I'm not bragging or anything. Like I do really well for myself. But it is a struggle. I mean, he was right about the fuel costs going up. As an owner operator, that's our number one expense. I battle that cost. That's why I drive the truck I drive. That's why I'm not in the W900 that's parked right next to me. As much as I want that truck, for my business, it doesn't make sense. I need fuel economy because that's my biggest expense.
the whole reason I'm in the truck I'm in right now. Because the fuel economy was okay on my truck, but the one I'm in, a whole lot better. Midlife, I know you probably got a lot of challenging opinions. You and I go back and forth a lot on this, whether there is, whether there isn't.
There's 7 of us on this panel. How many of us will be driving in 10 to 12 years? How
Good
many
question.
of us on this panel, I guarantee none of us are still driving in 10 to 12 years or plan to. We'll either be retired or have moved on. Maybe one or two will.
In 10 years, I'll only be 54 years old. I've been trucking for 26 years.
Do you plan to keep driving another 10 or 12 years?
My goal is I've shared this on my channel. I have a dollar amount. Once I attain that dollar amount, not just from trucking, right? I own properties, I own other things. Once I'm at that dollar amount, I'm done. That could be 5 years from now. That could be 12 years from now.
For everybody. You got a third of the drivers are younger. They're getting into the trucking industry. They're going to have a wife, girlfriend that's going to say, hey, I want you home more for the family, and they're going to be off the road. That's going to happen. Those drivers that you see starting right now, how many of them, when I went to school in 2019, 5 people in my truck driving class, one of them is still on the road, me.
Someone that can speak
are off the road.
Someone that can speak to the challenges of getting home has been kind of left backstage because I didn't pay attention to him very much. But when it comes to, don't look at me so grumpy. Give me that look, grumpy. I'll bounce you backstage like a basketball boy.
I was trying to type something to you to let you know, hey, I'm back here.
I saw that. But I saw you first, sucker. Anyway, someone that can talk about the challenges of dealing with family and the job is this man right here, Grumpy Old Trucker. Check him out when you get a chance. But tell me about that. I mean, in terms of what you think of this shortage, what Tom just said, and the challenges of getting home. How do you balance that out?
How do I?
Yeah.
Or how is it balanced out, period?
How do you balance it out? I mean, you're of that age where, you know, like he said, you don't know if you'll be doing it in 10 years. So you've got to balance all that out. You've got a lot to work on right now.
Yeah, I mean, I've been in this field for now 24 years, and I don't believe there's actual shortage because, I mean, there's plenty of drivers out there. It's just a factor that, you know, if these companies would stop, you know, doing their thing and not listening to the driver themselves, because we're the ones that make them the money. So they need to actually consult with us and talk with us more than just, oh, your load's ready, go pick it up. Oh, why are you late? You know, that kind of stuff right there is a no bueno with me. I don't like it. And it's, you know, it's also bad whenever you have equipment failures like I've been having recently. In fact, I've got one right now. I got a gremlin in there that needs to be thrown out in the sunlight.
TC Boggs, I want to recognize him being part of the audience. He says, trucking has a normal amount of churn. It's always been high. Trucking has a retention problem. I don't know. You mentioned that briefly a minute ago there, Poet. What do you think of the retention problem TC mentions? Do you believe that, or do you think that's a culprit?
Well, okay, since Tom Midlife brought it up, I've had a few minutes to think about it, and yes, I still think that the turn and churn is a great part of the problem. Mind you, okay, Tom also said, I'll bet you that in 10 years, drivers will be retired. If I'm 70, I will drive until I'm dead. I can't afford to retire. Okay.
And like, I'm sure a lot of us probably fit that same bill.
Well, try to retire on $1,100 a month. And in my case, take 30% off of that because my dollar is worth 30% less than yours.
Yeah. Yeah, I was going to mention it.
Cost of living is the same.
Free healthcare.
Free healthcare. That's a whole different discussion, guys. We ain't going to start that one. Larry,
no,
what do you think of
free
TC Boggs and his
nowhere near.
Hold up, Owen. I'm trying to get around the panel here. Larry, what do you think of this whole thing about retention is a problem, like TC Boggs brings up? You agree with that, or you think it's right pretty dead on?
I think it's pretty close. I mean, everyone's always looking for their next job, so they'll bounce from one to the next one, and well, that's part of the driver shortage, right?
Yeah. Well, just like right here, 7Cs, apparently a good friend of fate, says, well, according to some, trucking is going to be autonomous, so drivers will be in abundance. I see that glaring smile, you opportunist, you. Come on. No, you know you want to gloat.
I'm not gloating. I'm just saying, like, you got to follow the money, man. And I'm not, like I said, everything I own in my life, I raised my family. Like, trucking has been very, very good to me. I don't have a lot of negative things to say about trucking because I know what it's given me in my life. I do think retention is a problem in trucking. You know, it's hard to find good companies. I know there's lots of guys and girls, though, that have found a good place, whether they're hauling fuel or, you know, working for a, you know, hopper bottom. Like, they found something they like. And if it works with their life, they're there. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's
exactly. I'm going to get on to one more story because you know what? It's not just us and the mainstream talking. There's other entities as well that are opining on their opinions of what they think the problem with this myth is all about. The ATA has had a long position of placing itself as an authority on all things trucking. And according to, this is Craig Fuller talking, this shortage is nothing more than a myth. But the ATA says FreightWaves has got it all wrong. Craig Fuller argues that it's a convenient story spun to serve specific interests. Now, before you dismiss Fuller, let's dig into what the ATA isn't telling you. Globally, the driver shortage is indeed a reality, but it's not. Let's not confuse a global trend with an American crisis manufactured by a select few in suits and ties. ATA would have you believe that the shortage is so dire and so overwhelming that without their intervention, the entire economy would crumble, much like that guest whom I said was not involved in trucking. His video was titled, "The Economy Will Crumble." Now, why would companies across the board be increasing pay if there was truly an oversupply of drivers? Before you comment on the panel, let me finish this. The laws of economics tell us that when there's a surplus, prices drop. Yet in trucking, we're seeing the opposite. Could it be that the market is self-correcting? Comment in the audience. Let us know what you think of that. Wages are rising to affect and attract talent. And this so-called shortage isn't the existential threat the ATA wants you to believe. Here's the truth. The ATA represents a small amount. They don't represent the entire industry. They represent an agenda. The agenda is more concerned about maintaining their influence in Washington than addressing the real issues. The ATA is nothing more than a members-only club. You have these so-called experts that question the media and blindly parrot their talking points because at the end of the day, the only voice that truly matters in this industry is who pays their bill, and that's their membership. Well, it's time to put a stop to that. The AT and their friends in the media and everybody, they're not just talking to a blanket of truckers anymore. They're not just sparking out statistics. This is our life they're messing with. We are the pawns in the game. We are the kings in the road. Drop a comment down below. Let me know what you think. Should companies and the media try harder to avoid the ATA and the narratives? What say you, John?
Yeah, the ATA has definitely been pushing this thing for a long time, but I want to rebut a couple of things that a couple of people have said. Now, as for having so many trucks in the out there and only so many on the road, well, when the whole shutdown happened, trucks were being sold like crazy. Well, a lot of those people have left. So all those trucks are still sitting out there. That doesn't show a shortage. That shows that our whole industry has contracted, not needs to grow. Also, the rates are ridiculously low, which is a supply and demand thing.
Whoa. You have no business saying the rates are super low. I'm not being an asshole here. You are a company driver.
Wait.
You do not see what the rates are. I'm getting $4.85 a mile right now. I am making.
Are you on a customer load or a load board load?
No, I'm on a load board load right now. This is a spot market load right now.
Good for you.
But
over the last few months,
rates are so relative. Rates are so relative.
Hang on.
It's how you build your business.
Let me finish my point.
Let him finish his point, and I'll give you equal time. That's fine.
As I was saying, I'm not saying right this very second, but over the last 6 months, rates have steadily been lower than they were 2 years ago. You're not going to argue with that one, are you?
I will argue with that one because I've been in this industry for 26 years. What we saw 2 years ago was a once in a lifetime thing. That will never happen again and never did happen before.
Okay, let me finish. The reason why, again, that was a once in a lifetime thing. I get it, but when you go from that kind of rates down to where we are now, that's not going to make our rates higher because we're in a shortage. That means there's too many drivers or not enough drivers. Rates would be up. Rates are
what should the rates be
at best medium right now.
What do you think a good rate should be?
Define medium, John.
Yeah. Do you want a socialist style trucking industry where everybody gets paid the exact same?
No, definitely not. No, but listen to what I'm saying.
Business doesn't matter.
No, listen to what I'm saying. If rates are high, that means that there's not enough drivers to handle the loads. If rates are low, that means there's. I mean that's supply and demand, isn't it? Am I wrong?
You're talking about capacity.
Yeah, but am I wrong? Does that affect rates?
No, you're right. Yes, that affects rates. You're 100%.
There you go. So does that show a shortage or not show a shortage?
That's not the only thing that affects rates. You got to look at. I know. You mentioned something from 2 years ago, 3 years ago, when companies, big companies, lost all kinds of money, with a big portion of that being in their transportation fund. Now, a guy that used to do that job, go ahead, John.
I was just going to say, but part of the reason it was so high was because everybody was out of everything and there wasn't enough drivers to get the stuff there, which showed that there was, which showed that's why. If we're opposite of that now, what's that mean?
Once again, I'm not, how do I say this? I will not argue the spot market is a tough.
I may be a lowly company driver that doesn't really know anything. I might have been an owner operator or one time or another in my life, but it doesn't mean that I don't pay attention enough to know that, supply and demand, that's what capitalism is. And so that has to play a part here.
You're making a broad statement saying rates are low. They're not low if you know how to operate business. If you take me, for example, you know who I'm leased onto. You know other contractors that are leased onto where I am. Like
let me change your question.
That's such a
now, this is a
statement to make.
This is a dangerous question because I don't. This is a dangerous question because I don't know the answer, and you don't have to tell me real numbers. But did you make more 2 years ago, or did you make more this year? Will you make more this year?
I've made more this year.
Have you really?
Yes, because I didn't have the breakdowns.
Oh, because you never break down. Okay.
I made more
capacity. It's also volume. Freight volume is what is another big factor. And right now, volume is down because inflation is so high and people are afraid to spend money. So you don't just have capacity as one issue. Capacity is an issue, but the other side of that issue is volumes. And now, will volumes stay down? We're at an all-time low right now for volumes, but the reason is because we just recently had a spike 2 years ago. There was a gigantic spike in volume because everybody was sitting at home, couldn't leave their houses, and was ordering shit on Amazon like it was going out of style. So they needed people to move that stuff. And that's what happened during COVID. Everybody sat at home.
You know what I would love?
They got free money left and right. Whoa, check from the government. Let's spend it.
Right?
Problem was that ended.
Yeah. What would you like?
You know what I would love to know, and it would have to be from somebody much old. Like, I'm not being rude here. Like older, like a real older guy. Poet might be a good example of this. I would like to know what rates were when more manufacturing was done here in the U.S. You know what I mean? So much of what we're delivering and where we're bringing it isn't made here. You know what I mean? I would like to know what rates were when things were manufactured here versus from overseas.
Well, I don't know, because I was never privy to that information. Okay. Over the last 50 years, I've watched industry move to Taiwan, China, Japan, Mexico, and the mid-America countries, right? I know that the freight rates were better. Okay. I went up to my boss and asked him for a half a buck an hour more or a cent a mile more. It was never an issue as long as I didn't do it any more than 2 or 3 times a year. No problem. But with everything that North America, and I'm not talking USA, I'm talking Canada as well, with everything that we south and east for manufacturing, and it's still happening today, okay? The freight rates have stayed the same or gone down. Insurance has gone way up. Fuel has gone way up, and I don't believe the BS saying, oh, well, fuel prices have come down over the last 6 weeks. Yeah, by how much? Is it really worthwhile?
Right. So what are your... Well, you were done with your point. I was just going to say, what are your thoughts on what Poet just said, trucking guy? I mean, what are your thoughts? Do you remember a time when things weren't as bad or any different?
It doesn't matter the generation; they're all going through this.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I'm fairly young. I'm probably younger than all of you guys. I'm not trying to be mean, but you know. That's what it is. Every generation, you go all the way back to the Great Depression. Every generation has been through some type of, either it's the trucking industry or not, they've always been in some kind of down.
Right. Well, I wasn't going to dismiss what kind of experience you had over anybody else on the panel, because I know nothing about you, but
to
the point the Poet was making about manufacturing and all moving overseas. I'm sure
I think it needs to come back to the States. I really do. I mean, if we're being completely blunt and honest right now, the work ethic nowadays sucks.
It does. It's not just in trucking; it's all over the place.
Yeah, it is. It's all over the place. I out of this year alone, and I mean, I try to treat my employees with the most respect I can.
Yep.
I've gone through, since January, I've gone through 10 people, and I found 2 that will stick around because they have the passion for it.
Yep.
Wow.
What say you, Grumpy? What do you think of what Trucker Guy was just saying? As we're hold that answer just a minute. I want to catch up on a comment or two here. Trucker Kersey, wanted to recognize that you're here with us. Welcome to the show. TC Boggs, you quite chat up, and you're making a lot of good points. Using commercial evidence for a macro statement, how some people made money during the Great Depression. That's not what the majority felt. Don't know whose point he's bouncing off of, but good point. We got a lot of activity in the comments, so I'm glad people are digging in. RGB. It was 10 times easier to run your trucking company during the pandemic than now.
Yeah.
Hey,
true.
Grumpy, go ahead and opine on that. I mean, you worked through it. You've been in it 23, almost 24 years now.
Who, me?
What do you think what trucker? Yeah, you. What do
I've
you
been
think
doing
of
it
what
24.
24.
In fact, this
Okay.
month
Yeah, but
is
he was
24th
he was
year.
just a company guy.
Doesn't matter. I still worked all through it. I worked the whole
Don, you're
pandemic.
merciless. You're merciless, really. You had to wait
I,
until fate bumped out just to take a phone call to do that. That's not cool. Anyway, seriously though,
yeah.
Grumpy, what do you think of the whole idea of manufacturing, work ethics, and things that have changed just over the time you've been in it? What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, to my seeing, basically, whenever we had made pretty much everything here in the U.S. or in the North American area, um, it seemed like there was more money flowing here to where rates were better that I seen, and that we were being compensated right. You didn't have a lot of truckers wanting to quit. I mean, yeah, they tasted one job, didn't like it because something was going nuts there that they didn't like, so they moved over to another company. But
Yep.
that's just like I was agreeing with him. I firmly believe if we quit doing everything overseas that can be done here, let's get it back here. Now, if it can't be done here, that's fine, or send it down to our um, basically our borderlining countries, so they're close by us.
Right. Good point. We have a
But all
caller on
that
the line.
from China?
Want to welcome the caller to the show. Took a moment to call 860-785-3547. Want to thank. Or you can go ahead and hang up. Okay. Not every caller works out. If you do call the show, my friends, make sure you turn down your player, because I get with you as soon as I pick up the phone and don't want to have that feedback, which is probably why that call ended. But I will keep things the way it is.
Can I make a comment on something you said earlier, boss man?
Go ahead, man. What's up?
All right. So you posted from Freightways. The ATA says trucking shortage is real. So I've sent you, I have sent Grumpy, and I have said, Drive with John, some emails regarding the rail strike up here. If what Freightways says is right, okay, that there's so ATA is right, it's going to get a lot worse, because trucking is going to have to be picking up north and south from CPKC Railway. Okay.
My thoughts on that. My thoughts on that story, Poet, is that would be a wonderful story for the middle of next week. And I thought about covering that after I've had some time to do some research and collaborate with everybody on that. So believe me, I want to cover that. And I think there's partial truth to what you say, but there's also kind of some caution too, because I mean, just because there's a rail strike doesn't mean it's guaranteed business for the truckers. That's a logistics nightmare at work right now. Number one, you got the strike itself. And number two, you've got the actual volume you need to make up the difference. So there's a number of things involved in that.
I understand, so I will wait till Wednesday.
Yep. That's my thoughts, but I appreciate you mentioning it, and it's a valid point. Larry, you've been kind of quiet. What do you think? What do you think on all this?
I think people that don't know our industry should stay in their own lane.
Thank you. I like that. Good one-liner. That coming from Larry the trucker, guys. Stay in your lane. What about you, John? What do you think? We're going to move on a little bit.
I don't think you have to be a trucker to know what's going on. Honestly, you don't. A lot of people that are much smarter than me sit in offices and crunch numbers. And numbers, in my opinion, don't lie. They don't have feelings. They don't care about trucking. They don't not care about trucking. So, I mean, if the numbers says there's a shortage, there's probably a shortage. I just don't see it and understand how it's possible. But if the experts, I'm going to give them credit. They're smarter than I am. I just drive a truck for a living, and I'm just a company guy. So,
yeah, right. TC Boggs and you seem to be having quite the lively conversation. He's talking about it's not reality, supply and demand. What do you say to him?
He's a very smart individual, and he's right. It is supply and demand, but it's also freight volumes. But on the stuff being made in China, keep in mind, all that stuff being made in China comes into our coast. It has to be trucked from the coast to where it's sold, to the distribution centers, to the hubs, to where it's sold. So it does also cause trucking as well as eliminating. When things were made more in the heartland of the United States, they weren't trucked as far. Things made in Indiana, things made in Kentucky and Ohio, they weren't trucked as far. So that's a double-edged sword. We make some more for trucking, we make some less. But when it comes to trucking, people keep giving reasons why there's a shortage, but they say there's no shortage. There's no shortage of truckers, but the churn is the reason. Well, wait a minute. Churn is a reason for a shortage. Retention is the reason. That's a reason for the shortage. Not enough pay. Again, all we're doing is giving reasons why there's a driver shortage. If you can call up a company today and be in a truck next Tuesday, there's a shortage of drivers at that company. Now, there may not be a shortage of drivers at every company, but if you can pick up the phone and you can go to another company, when there's no shortage, companies are laying off and you can't get a job in that industry. How many times do we say on this show, why I hear people complaining that foreigners are coming into this country, getting a CDL and getting their ass behind the wheel the week after?
Well, I'd like to kind of touch on that just a little bit. I got to thinking, the factor of it is whenever there's too many drivers, then that basically brings the rates down. Am I not correct where we're not making as much because there's too many drivers? Well,
yeah.
Gee, think about it. If they're saying there's a driver shortage, maybe they're trying to do that to get more and more people in trucks and make it to where there's too much drivers then, so that the rates go, so that they can make more money.
It's a bidding war.
Well, who's they in your scenario?
Basically the shippers, the receivers, some of the brokerages. I mean, so it's not really going to help the companies as far as owning trucks like the company I'm currently working for. I mean, they brokerage a lot of their own freight.
Let's take that thought all the way out for a second. I'm sorry, I just have to do this. So you're saying that the brokers, the shippers, and receivers are conspiring together to create a shortage or an overage of drivers to bring down the rates.
Well, to me, that makes sense.
Does it?
Yes,
it doesn't make any sense to me. Doesn't make any sense at all. But I do want to point out one thing. We have how many people in here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, counting me. We have 8 people in here, and all of us should be ashamed of ourselves. Why are we picking on short drivers? I don't understand.
I was waiting for someone to pick up on that. That is just way too funny. Good night, John. We're looking at real quick. Getting caught up. We're getting caught up. Trucking courtesy. Most new drivers quit first year due to lifestyle of ODR. I think a lot of that has to do with the idea that they're not properly informed. So I agree with her on that one. So does Donna. So that's good to know. Comes up with another one. A trucking shortage numbers include the drivers about to lose their CDLs due to the clearinghouse. I'm about to get to that. 2 seconds, Kersey. Hold that thought right there. I got all the respect for you, even for mentioning it. Hell with that. I'm going to jump right to it. You guys remember not too long ago that we heard this right here? Come on. Of course, it doesn't want to cooperate with me now.
Their jobs. So, what a disconnect when you're trying to make a video about a trucker shortage.
Keep watching. Keep watching.
You say there isn't trucker driver shortage. If you're out there dealing with it every day, yeah, there is. And the question the only statement I would make towards that is, and I made it in this committee before, it doesn't help. We have a tremendous amount of people who might be good drivers, but they prefer to smoke dope on the weekend and they can't get clean by Monday.
We had yellow trucks in the background. I mean, these drivers
this
just
is why I like using a touchpad. But anyway, the way it's supposed to be is the mainstream media should have our backs. Government and the mainstream should be provided, or let me start over. The mainstream media and others in the media should be providing checks and balances toward people just like him. No one in the media called out this fella for his opining on drugs and the shortage. It was during the transportation committee on something or other. It was back in April of last year. Let me be perfectly clear. Blaming truck drivers on a so-called drug testing policies that you have every bit of control over is not only misleading, but downright irresponsible. While drug testing certainly is important for ensuring safety, I think it's a stretch to go on that kind of a stance, to claim that it's the root cause of the shortage, which he did during that hearing. The real issue goes much deeper. It's systemic. And it's problems like driver retention, work conditions, and other mentioned on this panel today, and lack of support for the independent truckers that keep this industry moving. Those are the things that are at the heart of what we're talking about. Not whether or not somebody can go home and smoke dope. I really take exception to that, and I thank you, Kersey, for mentioning that. I just had to get that in there because you know what? These people up there in Washington do nothing but pass laws and regulations we detest anyway. So for you to get up there and mislead the public and a panel of experts with BS like that is just completely uncalled for. What do you think about that one, Trucker Guy 91? What do you think? Giving you the floor because I hardly talk.
I drug test. I mean, as simple as that. I mean, I know quite a few of you guys heard the old cattle pot trick toothpick. But no, I mean, yeah, you know, yeah, they need to be drug tested, and that's kind of the generation nowadays. They want to sit at home and do that stuff and get paid for doing it. And
exactly, yeah,
it is. It's hard to find. That goes back to what I was saying earlier. It's hard to find somebody who has the passion that will stick with it, and it's hard to find a good OTR.
Right? Exactly. Go ahead, John.
I just want to jump in here for 2 seconds. I want to recognize two people that watch your channel and a lot of our channels. 7Cs is in our weight loss competition. He's just doing it privately. But today he sent me a text, and I just want to tell everybody, dude is killing all of us. He's lost 24 pounds so far in 3 weeks.
Congratulations to 7C.
He is kicking some butt, definitely. The other guy I would like to recognize is WCF Invader. He retired from trucking 2 days ago by choice. I don't know what his next adventure is, but I just want to say accident-free for 13 years. Thank you, dude. I appreciate your service and stay safe, driver. The last thing I want to say has something to do with those toothpicks. Now, I heard a rumor that the Grumpy Trucker does cinnamon toasted acorns instead of toothpicks. Is that true?
I don't know what you're talking about. I don't have a clue. No.
I heard you had a prescription.
we were going to
nothing about that.
I thought we were going to have an admission moment live on TV.
Well, I actually have video proof where he admits he has a prescription for cinnamon-covered roasted acorns. You know, instead of the toothpicks. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll have to see what comes of that.
Yeah.
All right.
We shall.
Last round of questions. I want to ask you guys: do you believe that smaller trucking companies and independent operators are fairly represented by those we talked about today, like the ATA, like FreightWaves, like the OOIDA? Do you think that that's the case, or do you think that needs to turn around in one shape or another? I see you being animated, poet, so I'll leave you 60 seconds to convince me otherwise.
Okay, I don't need 60 seconds. The ATA is there for the big outfits, okay? OOIDA is for the smaller outfits, owner operator, independent drivers. Okay, no, they are not fairly represented in the big picture. That's
All
it.
right. Okay. Good to know. Good to know. Nice to hear.
I have to make
about
a correction real quick. I'm sorry.
All right. Give me
It
a
was 27 pounds, not 25 pounds. I didn't mean to short him by 2 pounds. He's kicking our butt no matter what, but that is just amazing. 27 pounds. He put it in the comments. He corrected me. So
what's this man doing? Cutting it off with a knife and selling it or something?
Ideas, right?
Drop your secrets in the comments.
Why
Yeah.
should the ATA represent the smaller truck drivers and the independent truck drivers? Why should they?
Send it to me.
They represent whoever pays their membership.
Exactly. If you're not a member of the ATA, why should they give a flying crap what you think or what you want? They represent their members. It's that simple.
How many people do you think actually pay that membership?
Well, all your big companies belong to it because they know they need that trucking lobby. And that's why, actually, not just the big companies, going down to companies with 300 and 400 drivers.
How many of the smaller companies can swing at?
They have a sliding rate scale. It's just not a high priority for most of your smaller companies. Most of your smaller companies aren't going to pay the membership for a 10 carrier company is not that high for ATA. They're just not going to pay it because they don't see it as a high priority and they don't really think that the ATA will help them much. So they don't join the ATA.
Okay, what about you, Thumper? What do you think? Would you be concerned about paying a membership to the ATA, and what do you think would benefit you?
I've been surviving this long.
I mean, would it sweat you one way or the other?
I don't know. I guess like I sit in the truck and I drive. I do my job because I love it. That's why I'm in the industry. I try not to let politics get to me or anything like that. I just do my job. That's what I do. You know, I don't want no big company telling me what I can and cannot do. That's the thing right there. And then to go back to the whole rate thing, like I was gonna say earlier, I get phone calls every once in a while to haul something, and they're like, "Well, what's your rate?" I could do it for this much, and they'll be like, "No, there's this other company that'll do it for 20 cents cheaper than you." Well,
Go ahead.
That's what I need for my truck to go down the road.
Yeah, exactly. What do you think? You think there needs to be more? What do you think, Larry? Do you think there needs to be more representation for the little guy, or do you think it's done quite the right way? What do you think?
I don't think there's enough for the little guys.
People like the Thumpers of the world and Grumpies.
That's why all these bigger companies are buying out all the smaller companies.
Yeah. Well, good to know. Good to know. What say you, Grumpy? What do you think?
Well, like Tom was saying, basically, the ATA has nothing to do with the small guys like yourself unless you're a membership of them. So they could care less. I mean, as long as they're getting stuff from the bigger corporations and stuff, that's where they're going to feed from. So they're going to represent them before they'll even think about somebody small like Thumper up there, or of course Fate if he was a member of them, or whoever else on the panel, is going to be doing any kind of lease purchase or owner operating. Company drivers, as far as us go, it doesn't have anything to do with it. It's no effect.
Last point I'm going to make is the ATA, with all of its corporate backers, has a vested interest in keeping the myth of this trucking shortage alive. They're not just advocating for truckers, they're pushing policies that protect big fleets, the ones who bankroll their operations. Little guy like you and me, we're just a footnote in their grand plan. Do you think that needs to change? Do you think there needs to be a limit? I mean, yeah, it's membership only. Yeah, you got to pay it, like Midlife says. But I mean, at the end of the day, come on. I mean, the percentages I spoke of in previous videos say it all. Literally more than 85% of the industry is the smaller guys. The minority is the bigger guys. Do you think that would play a role in this trucking shortage? What do you think, Tom?
I think if you wanted to join the ATA and you had a smaller company and your revenue was equal to or less than $5 million a year, it's $36.11 annually. So is it worth $3,500 to you? If your revenue was 50 million or less, it's 17,000. Is it worth it to you? They have a sliding scale. Now these big companies, the ones with the 500 million or the ones with 5 billion, they're paying 150, 160. Their highest is under 200,000. So yes. Now the reason most people don't join it is because they say, "Why should I join it? What am I going to get out of it?" Well, you get a voice. If you want that voice, if you want the ATA to represent you, you join it. Just like if you want OIDA to represent you, you join OIDA. Whoever you want to represent you, you join them. If you don't see that as a value, then you don't spend your money there. You spend it elsewhere. But we've given all kinds of reasons for the shortage. We've said pay was the reason for the shortage. We've said that churn is the reason for the shortage. Retention is the reason for the shortage. And then we say there's no shortage. It doesn't exist. But difficult there. Off to you.
You certainly make it interesting when you hand it back. What do you think, Thumper? Do you think it should be a little bit more? Do you think that 85 to 15% ratio should change? Would you like to see more representation?
I would like to see more owner operators, more smaller companies, because the country was built off of that.
No. Okay.
That, these bigger, that again, you're competing against bigger companies that have more money than you do. But if we all the smaller companies stick together, we can kind of team up against them if we all work together.
You have $3,600 laying around to solve your problem, like Tom says?
Nope, because I don't know if my engines. I don't know if my engine's going to blow up tomorrow or not.
Yeah. Some guys
and to replace the engine in my truck, that's $70,000 because it's a Caterpillar motor.
Oh wow, yeah, you got it twice as bad as I ever did. What about you? You got $3,600 laying around to help a brother get in there?
Who, me?
Yeah, you. No.
Sorry, John. I guess you weren't seeing my idea about the cost and everything else associated with joining either OI or the ATA is that we are nothing more than a wheel on the road to their success.
Yeah.
If that makes
sense to me. Faye, we're about to wrap it up. I wanted to give you a last chance to kind of opine on what I just brought up about the ATA and who represents who.
Well,
I know.
Well, I didn't hear you. I was on the phone.
That's fine. Go ahead, Faye.
I didn't hear what your question was. I was on the phone with my wife. I want to clarify something real quick because Driving with John made a comment based off of what I said. Oh, I'm just a lonely company driver. There's nothing wrong with being a company driver. What I'm saying is you're not on the phone with customers every day or brokers every day. There is a difference when you are a business. Perfect example is like when you and I met up driving with John. My truck was shut off. Yours wasn't. There's a different mentality with being a business owner versus a company driver. Now, I was a company driver for over 20 years of my driving career. I'm speaking from experience, just like when you were an owner operator. Things are different. You know what I mean? But what was your question?
The original question was over the difference in being represented. The ATA, they're a members only club. And we were talking around the panel about the difference in who's represented. They have a membership only. You pay $3,600 a year. You get involved, you get represented. If you don't have it, you don't. But when you talk about the difference in the amount of drivers that are in the industry, 85% of them are literally people like you and me. We're owner operators. We're single, smaller. Can't really afford that. So what do you think of that ratio?
You do know that's not the only trucking lobby organizations across the U.S. There
Oh,
are
I know. I didn't
thousands
know
of
if Nate got part of that conversation or if he didn't, but I was just framing it for the close of the show. Yeah.
I can afford $3,600. I just choose not to. I'm not part of any association because this is just my self-centeredness. I know what's best for me. I don't need somebody to represent me. I have a voice. I live in America. I can represent myself. I don't need
want to
somebody to
unionize?
represent me. No,
You
hell
really
no,
want to
I
keep
don't.
you want to keep this show going into overtime, don't you, midlife? Shame on you. What do you
Wait a
think,
minute,
Larry?
let's all
You think
unite. Shut
yeah,
down
right?
this place.
Yeah. What do you think, Larry? You think that 8515? Yeah, for that matter, $3,600. You got it? You want to join the ATA tomorrow?
No thanks, I'm good.
Yeah, right. I'm good, he says. I tell you what. I'm going to leave the last word up to John here in just a minute. Grumpy, what do you think?
I'm lucky if I get $1,200 a week to take care of my family. Where in the world would I get $3,600 to join some crazy organization that would probably wouldn't represent me anyhow?
It would be kind of really ridiculous. You think we're represented enough, or you think there's too much turmoil already in this industry?
Now, I'll answer that in 1 second. So, I honestly don't know much about these organizations, and you guys tell me if I'm wrong. But if it's a sliding scale and you pay more if you're a bigger company, doesn't that give more power to the bigger company and less power to the smaller company? Because where the money is where the power is, right? So even if you're a small guy and you join that organization, you get no power out of it because the big companies are outpaying you anyway. Am I wrong?
No, you're joining. They represent the industry and all their members. Now you have you still got to vote, and and they will go to Washington if your interests. Now, whether or not your interests align with the big guys and the other members, you might be outvoted. That's how unions work, you know.
No, I get it. I'm just like, it doesn't make sense to me. They built an organization to represent trucking, but they also built it to favor the bigger guy. Like, obviously, like you said, 85% of our industry is a small guy, but yet the 15% runs it.
Yeah.
There's thousands of
And it
organizations.
seems like,
They just
no, I know, but
effective.
yeah, well, I'm sure they're all like that. That's my point. Those organizations are all bought and sold by these big company money anyway. So
this is very true, guys. And on will go the conversation to fit yet another day. Now, to me, will have you believe that all these facts and what we discussed here today is the truth. There's a trucking shortage. There's this. There's that. They cherry pick the data to fit their negative, and they ignore anything that doesn't align with their corporate interests. It's time to stop and get our act together and feel it and do it the right way. If you like this broadcast and you like the people that were here and the way they carried on today, go ahead and subscribe, like this video, become a subscriber to their channels, and never forget, trucks make the deliveries, but you make the difference. Till next time, keep it real and keep it rolling.